Support X-Men #1. My wife's gonna go mental. How's it hanging, YouTube? Peter here, your Ginger Geordie Geek. Welcome back to the channel. Before we get into the video, if I can just encourage you to go back and look at some of my previous stuff. So on this channel, we do comic book unboxings, we do movie and TV reviews, we do toy reviews, 1/6 scale figures, and we do a number of live shows. Live show every Tuesday night at 7:30 UK time, so please check those out. Okay, so look at it. Look at it. We've got an X-Men #1. So everybody that's watching this channel should know what this book is. This is Marvel's X-Men #1 from 1963. Tell us if I'm wrong in the comments. I think 1963. This is the first appearance of the X-Men, Marvel's flagship title, a huge mega key. Comic book series that's still going on now. Obviously, you know, X-Men is one of Marvel's biggest properties. There are tons of comics coming out every month. It's a huge property. This is a book I've wanted for a long time, and there's a bit of a story behind it, which I'll show you in a minute. But just for now, just to let me tell you a little bit about my history with this book. Those of you that watch this channel know I'm a huge geek. I'm a massive comic book collector, have been for 45 years, and I love comic books. My first memories of comics are the X-Men, particularly from the Secret Wars run. I absolutely love them. Again, if you watch the channel, you'll know that Thor's my favourite character. And a couple of years back, I was lucky enough to pick up Journey into Mystery 83, first appearance of Thor. So I've got my mega key. Around that time, the comic market took a massive hike and prices went through the roof. This was always an expensive book already, but this went through the atmosphere, you know, it was totally out of my range. So I just kind of assigned myself to the fact that I would never own an X-Men #1. My long-term collecting games are always been to have a copy of all of the key Marvel first appearances. And this was top of the shop, top of the list, and I never thought I would have it. So why X-Men? Why do I love X-Men so much, particularly those original series? Well, as you may have noticed, I am, or I was, before I went old, I am ginger. And I am a rather large chap. I know you might not think this, but this isn't muscle. This is in fact flab. That's a British word. So I'm a chunky ginger chap who used to wear specs. So as you can imagine, when I was younger, I wasn't the most popular kid on the block. At school, I was bullied mercilessly because of my hair, because of my glasses, because of my weight, and also because I was a nerd. I liked comics and I liked superheroes and I liked all that kind of stuff. Wasn't the popular kid, wasn't the jock and all that kind of stuff. I'm not telling you this for sympathy because I've got over it. I'm a grown man now. The reason I'm telling you is because that's why I kind of fell in love with these characters. These characters were misfits. They were outcasts. They were people who didn't fit in with society. And that's very much how I felt as a young kid and still do to an extent as a comic collector. So I had a kind of a link with these characters. I felt in a way what they were going through. Now, I do not in any way want to try and say that I understand the complexities of, you know, race relations and being treated in that way. I'm not, let's be honest, I'm a white male privileged guy. But I could understand some of the angst and the feeling they were going through in many ways, which is why I fell in love with the characters. As I grew older and my outlook on the world began to form, I became very interested and involved with equality, diversity, human rights, and all of those kinds of topics, which again led us very much to being drawn towards the X-Men. Lots of connotations and lots of parallels with this series and how these people are treated, feared and hated in society, to some of the stuff we see in the world at this point in time, unfortunately. So yeah, big fan of the X-Men, big fan of Stan Lee for being brave enough to tackle some of these topics in comic book format back in the day, and I just love them. That's all pretty heavy, isn't it? So let's just say as well, it's a comic with great action, lots of fighting, mint powers, lasered eyeballs, icemen, big wings, beasts. It's good fun. That's why I like it as well. So desperate to have a copy of this book, never thought I was going to get it, and then an opportunity came up a couple of weeks ago. Came on the market on a Facebook group I'm a member of, and I just loved it. Saw it straight away. It was in rough condition, but it was at a good price. So I hummed and I hawed, and I thought I'll sleep on it, and then I'll try and see if I can rustle the money together. Worth pointing out at this point, I am not rich. I know I buy a lot of stuff and people comment on that on Facebook and whatnot, but I am not rich. I'm a normal person. I'm a nurse. Yes, I've worked my way up the nursing ladder, so I am in a senior position now, but I'm not on massive wages. I get my comics by having 40 odd years worth of a collection behind us. So I sell stuff to buy stuff like this. Anyway, I digress. So I slept on it, and wouldn't you know it, the bloody thing got sold. Shit on it. I was fuming. Missed it. These things never really come up, or I never really see them come up. So I was devastated. I thought I've missed my big opportunity to pick up an X-Men 1 here, and I was a right grumpy sod for a couple of days. Then it came up again, didn't it? Somebody else put it up on the market. A shop from down London, which is quite a distance from me. And again, it was a nice looking book. It was in better condition, I think. It was a pence copy, and I had to have it. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit now about the story, the trek, the journey it was to pick this book up. I was going to buy it from remote and get it posted out to us, but I changed my mind. So this is a little bit of a trip to London and back. Roll VT. So I was perusing Facebook when I came across this advert from a guy called Paul, who owns the comic store down in Glastonbury. He'd just got a load of new books in, and he had some stonking books. Very early Amazing Spider-Man's, Fantastic Fours, but it was this bad boy that caught my eye. First appearance of the X-Men, book I've been after for a while. Got into talk with him, and I decided I was going to pay for it and buy it. Oh my God, a lot of money. Anyway, I looked at how I could get the book, considered postage at first, but the insurance for this was absolutely obscene, so I decided against that. So instead I decided to go down and look at it myself. Considered flying down there, but that was going to be too expensive, and then I discovered that the trains were a bit of a nightmare to get to Glastonbury. So instead I decided to take a road trip from Newcastle all the way down to Glastonbury, 335 miles, roughly 6 and a bit hours. Glastonbury you might have heard of, because it's a big popular place for festival goers who do all this kind of weird stuff with music. I don't know, I'm too old. Anyway, we're headed off. Managed to convince my wife to drive down with us so she could drive and we could split the journey. Usual typical UK motorways for our other way, which were a bit mind-numbing, but then we hit some beautiful English countryside. If you've never been to the UK before, really do recommend. Look at this, I'm very, very happy. Looking forward to picking up the X-Men. If you've never been to the UK before, really do recommend you have a look around some of the countryside villages, because it really is stonking. Met some lovely people on the way, stopped for dinner with these guys, and they invited me to take part in a little festival. Fortunately, we were too busy, so we headed straight off. Not a bloody clue what this shit's all about. Everywhere we went, the countryside, knitted stuff all over the place. Mental. A little bit worrying, don't know what's going on there. Anyway, we managed to get to Glastonbury after a bit of a delay. Took about 7.5 hours. Anyway, got to Glastonbury, had a little wander down the main street there, and found the shop. Stunning looking shop, really impressive, in a nice little area, and it just looked amazing. So let's look at that in a bit more detail. So this guy's got stuff everywhere. It's a real proper old style comic shop. There's toys and action figures, as you can see. There's comics, there's records, old style books, everything you can imagine, all over the place in the shop. Exactly the kind of comic and superhero type shop that I enjoy looking about in. Also got a number of long boxes with some back issues and things in there, kind of your stock items and things like that. But he does have a whole host of long boxes behind the counter, which were impressive to say the least. Really recommend if you go down there, ask him to see his good stuff, because he's got some phenomenal books. As you can see, it's a real kind of hodgepodge of stuff. You've got old graphic novels, old annuals, you've got action figures, there's some Star Wars stuff, a lot of Pokemon stuff, and then on the back wall there, you might not be able to see, but he's got some big key books. First appearance of Harley Quinn, Doctor Strange, some really nice stuff worth checking out if you're down in the Glastonbury area. I did have a look through these back issues, and I picked up a few books, which I'll show in a separate video. But I picked up some minor keys, the kind of stuff I'm normally interested in. But yeah, some good books worth having a flick through and seeing what you think. So we had a whole host of Batman keys, not really my cup of tea, but some really nice books there if you're a Batman collector. He also had for sale a whole host of key Marvel books that he's just getting in. So first appearances of Vulture, Doc Ock, Scorpion,
and Craven the Hunter and all that kind of stuff. So some real big mega key books there for you. Had I had a bit more spare cash, I would have definitely been picking up some of these books, but I had a prize in mind. There was the X-Men one that I wanted to get, and I guess that brings me to the main event, the reason I went down there, the X-Men #1. So image there on screen for you to have a look at. An absolutely stunning book. He had this down as a 2.5. I'm not a grader, but I do think it looks around about that grade. So I went down, I had a look at it, and I fell in absolute love. It's a beautiful book. Had a real good go over the pages just to make sure everything was intact and that there was no cutouts and things. And I would always recommend, if you're picking up a big value book like this, it's worth going and having a look yourself and checking out those pages and making sure it all looks legit and as it should be. So yeah, I knew straight away that I had to have it. It was dream book of mine, and I wasn't going to let this one go. So we agreed a price, and I picked it up. The most money I've ever spent on a comic book. This cost us 5,000 English pounds, or roughly 6,250 US dollars. Eye-watering amount of money. To try and calm us down before we left, we went and had a little look around Glastonbury. If you ever get the chance to go down there, really recommend you have a bit of a neb around the shops. And then we hit the road and we're headed back to good old northeast England.
So there you have it, ladies and gents. That's my little journey. 7.5 hours each way. Bloody hell. That's my little journey to London and back to pick up this copy of X-Men #1. There you have it. It's a beaut. It is a Pence copy. It does have a number of issues with it, as you'd imagine. It's a book from 1963. But I love it. I absolutely love it. I'm going to put some images up now because I'm interested in your thoughts. I'm humming and hawing. Do I get this book pressed before I send it off for grading, pressed and cleaned, or do I just send it off as it is? Now, it's quoted at 2.0 to a 2.5 CGC grade. I'm interested in your thoughts, ladies and gents. What do you think? Pop something in the comments below as to what grade you think this will fetch, and whether you think I should be getting a pressing on it first or just send it off as is. I think, as you can see, guys, it's a stunning looking book for its age. It got some issues. I'm not denying that. You know, there's some cuts in one of the bottoms of the pages here, but it's a beaut and I absolutely love it. Like I said, never thought I would have this in my collection, so I'm a happy ginger geek. This is one of the best things I've ever bought. So I'm ecstatic. And, you know, in terms of collections, I've now got my mega key. I've got my first appearance of Thor. I've then got my second mega key, my first appearance of the X-Men. So, you know, in reality, I can start to relax and I can stop hunting for some of these big books, can't I? I've got everything. I'm content. Isn't that what they say? I've got everything I want. I'm content. Am I content? Am I? Oh, I should buy an FF #1, shouldn't I? Ah, shit.